Cheap entitled parent intentionally damages rental car, gets sent to collections. From user Wadobe. After that, entitled parent on do not rent list throws tantrum when he couldn't rent a car. Also from user Wadobe. After that, my son's cold is more important than your opened wound. From user Osmogram. After that, a wild Karen breaks into my family's home because the front gate was open. From user Danny Howlett. And then we'll be wrapping up with parents arguing about my birthday dinner. From user WarLady22. Thank you so much to our posters for letting us read your stories. And if you would like me to read your stories next, please submit them to the r/Mr. Reddit subreddit. And if you're new, please subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories every single day. Cheap entitled parent intentionally damages rental car, gets sent to collections. Backstory. I worked at a major rental car company right when I graduated undergrad as a rental agent. I helped an incredible amount of entitled parents, but this one stood out more than normal. If you are wondering, the company is associated with green. Story. A family of 5 walk in, probably around 10:30 p.m., and it was my 12th hour there that night. Very long scheduled hours. At this time, there aren't too many customers walking in, and only a handful of agents, so naturally, the father walks straight up to me and says, "I need my car, now." Now usually, this isn't the way customers make their entrance, but with the time and all, I just go along and ask for an ID, and proceed to process his reservation. This said, I see he reserved a compact car, Nissan Note-sized car, and ask at the counter if he wanted to pay something like $15 more per day for a full-sized car. He basically cuts me off and says he isn't paying a dime more for crap. Obviously, this guy is a jerk, and I see his tired family behind him, so I just say okay and complete the reservation ticket and walk him out to the car. The second he sees the car, he looks at me and says, No, this won't work. I can't fit my family." So I tell him I could get him into a bigger car for like $15 per day, or even an SUV for a little more, but he stops me and says, "Listen to me, I'm not paying a gosh darn dime for anything more. Just get me something bigger, now." I have dealt with this kind of entitled parent before, so I just say that we couldn't do that for free, so he can either pay more or take what he reserved. He doesn't like this at all and plays the sympathy card. I tell him no, and he huffs and says fine, and that he'll just get this one. He shoves his poor family into this tiny car with about half their luggage in their lap. I have him sign off on all the documents. Note, he actually bought the damaged car insurance, CDW is what we call it, and drives off. A week later, he returns, and literally all the luggage was strapped with a rope to the top of the car. Now, normally this wouldn't be a problem, but the amount of luggage literally concaved the roof in on itself, and there was a massive dent where it was left. I wasn't working returns at the time, but my manager radioed me over because the entitled dad was apparently yelling at my manager and complained that I screwed him out of a good vacation. I explain what happened to my manager with the entitled dad present, and my manager explains to him that this was intentional damage, therefore waiving the insurance he purchased. Because of this, we need to collect his insurance information and file a claim. Entitled dad gets furious and starts screaming that we are all jerks and kicks the car, denting it further. He snags his luggage and starts running with his family to get on the complimentary shuttle to the airport. We watch, unamused, as he boards the shuttle and has to wait for it to depart. But policy states we don't chase anybody. Result? We charge his card for the cost of the rental and insurance and send him to collections for the damages. He was also placed on the do not rent list. Yes, that exists. I cannot wait until he tries to rent the next time. I know this isn't the most entertaining story, but his behavior was beyond childish and absolutely unbelievable. Ask anything about the rental industry, and I'll happily respond. Next, we've got entitled parent on do not rent list throws tantrum when he couldn't rent a car. Per my last post, I'll tell you a story of when one customer tried to rent from me, rental car agency, when he was on a do not rent list. Yes, this exists. Last post gave some more backstory, but I worked for a large rental car agency that is commonly associated with green for those of you who have served time there. It was maybe 6 p.m. and we were busy, like 30 customers in line waiting to rent a car. This guy, his girlfriend, and his kid walk up to the counter where I was writing tickets/contracts, and he seems like a typical Colorado traveler. He had a sideways flat-brimmed hat with pot leaves on it, a black monster shirt, a total Kyle. His girlfriend and kid were pretty absent and not really present during this, so they're not that relevant. Anyway, I take his ID, and when I put in his license number, the program flags him as a do not rent customer. This happens pretty infrequently, and I know it could be embarrassing, so I just kind of put my head over the counter and whisper that he has a precious claim under his license that prevents him from renting. Note, the claim suggested he owes over $1,800 to the company due to a previous claim. The message also provides a phone number for the customer to call in order to dispute or pay the fine for them to rent. Per policy, I can only tell him the number, but cannot remove him myself from the DNR list. Only corporate admins have this privilege. So I tell him the number and instruct him to call it so I can start processing other customers in line, mostly business customers. He freaks out and starts screaming at me. He says something around the lines of, "I never damaged that darn car, you idiot." Now, I don't have any visibility to see what he did or did not do, so I just say sorry, but I literally could not process his license without clearing the accusation. So I tell him that unfortunately, I cannot do much for him until he calls the number, and usually, this is where they walk out or just call the number to resolve the issue. Not this guy. He literally throws his open bottle of water at me and gets my suit all wet. He then takes the glass of water from the customer next to him and chucks it into the crowd of people waiting to be helped. Now they're all mad too. This isn't the first time I've had something thrown at me, but this is the first time I've ever had a customer throw something at other customers, so I call my manager to have him help. The dude just starts throwing literally everything he could grab in basically any direction, so we have to call the police. The police come, and by now, the guy, his girlfriend, and their kid are sitting in the back, despite us telling him to leave. On his phone, we direct the police to the dude, and he starts trying to tell them that he has a right to have a car, and that we are breaking the law for not giving him the car. Obviously, there is no law saying that a private company is obligated to rent a car to any customers, and this definitely isn't the first time these police officers have been to our facility, so they just tell him that he needs to go. Entitled Dad refuses. The police end up having to cuff the guy, and on his way out, he starts yelling threats at us like, "I'll burn this place down with all you in it." Either way, we comped a bunch of actually nice customers a day off their rental because they got sprayed with water, and the dude will never rent from this company again. Next we've got, "My son's cold is more important than your opened wound." Hi there, I'm Ryan. I just got my appendix out about a week ago. Just to explain, an appendix is a useless piece of flesh of your big intestines that does nothing for your body, except sometimes when you're unlucky like me, food can get stuck there and start to give you an infection because of the stuck bacteria. It needs to get taken out of your body, or else the appendix explodes in your body and all the bacteria flies everywhere in your body, which isn't good at all for your body, and it gives you a huge chance of dying. So now onto the story. Middle of the night, I felt my stomach start to hurt very badly. I didn't really think anything of it because I thought it was just a stomach ache. But later on, my bowels area started to hurt when I would take breaths in, so I started to panic. I couldn't sleep it off, and I've never felt this before, so I knew something was wrong. I woke up my mother and told her what was going on. She knew right away what was going on because apparently this happened to my grandfather too, and we shared the same symptoms. She rushed me to the ER as fast as she could. When we arrived, we were told I was first on the treatment list to see what was going on, but I would have to wait for an hour since there was another patient being looked at, so I had to wait a while before I could get looked at. Here comes entitled mom and her son. She enters the waiting room and right away put me in a state of shock. Entitled mom: "What do you mean my son has to wait in a queue? There's no other sick people here." Receptionist: "Sorry, ma'am. This young man over here is first for the queue, so you'll have to wait for him." Entitled mom: "Ugh, he doesn't even look sick. Look at my poor baby boy." The baby boy looked like he was a minimum of 14. "He's so pale. Why isn't he priority? I'm sure that boy over there is faking his sickness. He looks fine." I look at her dumbfounded. I couldn't believe that a woman like her exists. I look over to her son, and I can tell that he wishes someone else took him to the ER instead of his mom. I'm the type of person that doesn't like to be talked bad about, so I stand up and start to walk over to her and say, "Are you kidding me? I've been waiting here for over an hour. Just breathing hurts me. What makes you think that your son is more important than me? My appendix is infected. I might die. I don't like waiting here either, lady, but that's just the reality of it." "How dare you talk to me like that? You standing up just proves that you're perfectly fine. If it hurts to breathe, how can you talk to me like that?" She starts to come up close to me, and she keeps rambling on about how I'm faking it, saying I'm doing it just to get high off of painkillers. While saying all this, she's pushing me into a corner of the room. I'm starting to panic because I don't have the strength to really resist because I'm lacking a bunch of sleep, and she's pushing me on my stomach. Because of her height, she's pushing on the part that hurts the most, so I can't really fight back. Then my savior, aka security, comes into the waiting room and stops the lady from attacking me. The officer: "What is going on in here?" "This brat is faking a sickness and is stopping my son from getting treatment." Me, crying a bit: "This lady attacked me because she's crazy and thinks I'm faking my appendix infection." Officer: "All right, I've heard enough. Lady, you and your son will have to wait outside this room to get treatment for your son." "But he's..." "No buts. You assaulted a patient. If you don't want to wait outside the room, I'll escort you outside, and you'll need to get treatment from another hospital. Do you understand?" The lady says nothing and walks out of the room. I thank the security guard, and he walks off. I get called for my checkup, and it was confirmed I had an infection in my appendix and needed surgery ASAP. I got hooked up to one of these things and go back to the waiting room where I see the son. He comes up to me and says, "Hey man, I'm sorry." Me: "What? I don't know what you're talking about, dude. You'll need to be more specific. I've been awake for 22 hours now. I can barely remember anything right now." Son: "For my mom and what she did. She can be a psycho sometimes. Sorry you had to be on the receiving end of it." Me: "Oh yeah, that girl. Don't worry about it, man. I feel worse for you, man, having a mom like her. Whatever you have, hope you get better." And that's it. Never heard from either of them again. Told my mom later what happened. We had a small laugh. Got taken to the operation room, and they took the appendix out, so now I'm just recovering. Edit. Thanks for the information for the use of my appendix. I now know. Sorry for the misinformation. The information I got was from my surgeon and the doctor that told me I had the infection, so I just kinda took their word on it since, they've studied it their whole life. Edit 2. I now know that the thing is an IV drip. Thanks for telling me. Edit 3. OMG, thanks for Reddit Platinum. Next we've got A wild Karen breaks into my family's home because the front gate was open. Hey, Mr. Reddit, long-time lurker and first-time poster here. Before I start, here's a bit of backstory. Now, I live in a fairly big house, and when I say big, I mean it takes 5 hours just to get the basic rooms clean, such as the kitchen, foyer, and library. That doesn't include the basement, art rooms, playroom, living room, guest rooms, as well as a few other random rooms. On top of that, we had a lot of animals, and still do. My mom and I were the main ones who cleaned the house and cared for the animals. Yeah, it's a lot of work. Now, I live in a small town, and they've made so many rumors that in person, it's likely I'd never tell someone which house I live in, just so I could have some peace from all the drama. It became more clear to me how much I was judged by my home, and I even at points of time felt embarrassed for living there. It doesn't help that when my stepfather, the owner of the house, decided to try and sell our home, which wasn't successful at all, I was harassed daily, and one time I was literally in gym class doing the daily jog before lessons when some random kid came up to me and said, "Can I buy your house so I can burn it down?" Yeah, it wasn't fun, especially since I am highly autistic, so I took this seriously. When I was 14, I was depressed because of all the drama, as well as some serious family issues that were going on at the time. It got so bad that when I became a sophomore at 15, I started to not only request classes with people I didn't know, but I started to hide facts about my home. Some friends didn't see my home until after high school graduation. Making the change helped a lot during my school life. Of course, at home, that was a different story. There would be people outside the gate taking pictures and asking for tours constantly. Every day guaranteed it, and sometimes our gate would break. This is highly relevant to this story, which I shall begin now. This event happened a few years ago. Around the time, my family once again had issues with their gate, parts being old, as well as bad weather causing some decent damage to circuits or whatnot. So we had to keep the gate doors open to allow ourselves in and out of the house. I did worry sometimes because this was a common occurrence at the time, and regardless of how much money my stepdad owned, he was still crazy cheap with the necessities, meaning the gate wasn't getting proper care. Of course, prior to this event, we never had someone actually trespass on our property so openly before, walk into our house unannounced, and act as if they did nothing wrong. This Karen, however, did. Not surprising, I know. Sadly, she did not have the Karen haircut that we all know and love to hate, but her hair was still saying that she was the boss of everyone else. Now, I was in the kitchen trying to relax after doing my daily chores when I heard the bells attached to the front door make their signature sound. The woman, Karen, walked in with her granddaughter, who we'll call SK for small kid. S1 will stand for my first sister, S2 will be my other sister, SD will be my stepdad, Mom will be Mom, and I'm sure you'll know what me stands for. This will be paraphrased since this happened a few years ago. So the front door opened and closed, and Sister 1 and I didn't think much of it, as stepdad always went outside to work on his building projects and comes inside for breaks all the time, usually through the front door. We also heard the bathroom next to the front door be used, which was normal. But it was when we heard a feminine voice, one we didn't recognize, when I shared a look with Sister 1. Sister 1 asked, "Who's that?" I shrugged, confused, as I thought that at first stepdad decided to invite people over, which he would do when in a mania. Completely different entitled parent story there. Even though stepdad often did bring strangers to our house, it didn't stop our intrigue, and being teens, weary ones at that, we went to the foyer to see if we were right, or if we were losing our minds. As we did, Sister 2 decided to exit her own room out of curiosity. We saw a woman with a small child say hello to our Karen in her full glory. Karen looked at the furniture and scenery of our foyer, almost like an excited kid. "What a lovely house you have," she complimented, not even giving mind to the fact she literally barged into our home. Sister 1 and Sister 2 were slightly shocked and upset, but they were shy and didn't speak out like I did and currently do. I glared at the woman, furious someone was basically breaking and entering. "Who are you? And why are you in our house?" I was refraining from being a jerk only because there was a small child with this woman, and the kid was literally 3. Besides, she wasn't a bad kid from what I could tell, and it wasn't her that decided to break into a house. It was Karen's. Karen gave me a smug smile, almost as if it was obvious. "Well, the gate was open, so I thought it was open to the public." "It's not," I told her, mentally fuming. It was hard to hold my temper, and I was literally 15, so I still had the anger from the previous year in mind. By this time, my stepdad made it there. The grin Karen had didn't fade. Instead, it became even more smug than before. "It isn't? Oh well, I'd apologize and regret coming here if this house wasn't so nice." She laughed as she basically gestured to her kid. "Isn't it nice?" Her kid smiled and innocently nodded, causing Karen to talk more about how she was the kid's grandmother and she wanted the best for her. I let stepdad talk to her, and eventually, he successfully made her leave with her granddaughter. He didn't call the police though, mostly because he was afraid to. He was already dealing with a court case involving my stepsister's mother who was fairly crazy and wanted custody of both Sister 1 and Sister 2. My mom came downstairs shortly after, and when she did, my sisters and I told her what happened. Needless to say, she wasn't happy this happened either. She ended up having a long talk with stepdad about getting the proper equipment for fixing the gate, and for the next few weeks, I believe my entire family was on edge. But hey, at least we never saw Karen again. Next we've got parents arguing about my birthday dinner. Now, to start off, my parents are not totally entitled people. They are great parents. They tend to the needs of the people they care about, and they sacrificed a lot for myself and my brother. I could rely on them for 99% of the time, and they helped me through so many problems. There is no way I could ever pay them back, though I try. However, 1% of the time, entitled. They do things that are purely selfish, and it always ends in some kind of a fight. They never think about how I feel about what they plan when they get this way, and just do things without considering my feelings, especially when it's about me. In this case, my birthday dinner. On my mom's birthday, my dad and I treat her to an Asian buffet she loves to go to, or any Asian restaurant. On my dad's birthday, my mom and I either make him dinner, buy dinner at a fast food place he likes, or take him to a new barbecue restaurant he was interested in. Now, of course, neither my mom or my dad will argue with one another about where to eat. It is their day, and this is what they want, though I usually just give dad my share of the money for the Asian restaurant. I don't like Asian food. It never sits well with me for some reason. Otherwise, we always find something we all like to eat. Yet, on my birthday, my parents will argue about where I want to go every darn year. They always complain about the restaurants I want to go to. Now, if it was just about prices, that's okay. I understand. But they claim that they either can never find something to eat, or the staff was rude to them in some way, or they just don't like the place because some idiot from another branch did something my parents didn't like. So that one idiot made my parents not want to go to that place that isn't the one that the idiot worked at in protest, even though the idiot only did the stupid thing in that one spot. They will try their best to change my mind, going to places or ordering from places they want to order from. Now, of course, I want to make sure they also have something to eat if we go someplace, so I choose the places very carefully, but always they complain. I mean, one year, I told them I wanted to go to Bob Evans. Mom and Dad didn't like that place because in another state, at another restaurant, they had a rude waitress who was a total jerk, seriously. So even though that jerk was in another building in another state, my parents didn't want to eat there. I wanted to eat at this buffet, but my parents said that the food was always so salty no matter what they eat, though they never complained about it before. I recommend Red Robins, and my mom doesn't like the fact that they have music up so high, even though they are nice enough to lower the volume on the speakers if you ask nicely enough. Okay, so order out or fast food. Pizza Hut. They stopped making sandwiches that my mom liked. KFC. Too fatty for my dad apparently. McDonald's. I can have that any other day. And so on. I asked them where they wanted to go to. Mom suggested the Asian place because they have food there that I can eat. Never mind the fact that every time I go there, I get sick off of their food. My dad suggested Long John Silver, even though fish is neither friend nor food with me. Okay, so I suggest I make myself dinner. Cue them complaining about everything I try to make. I gave up and decided just to have leftovers and whatever was left of my cake before Dad accidentally dropped it on the floor while trying to put it away. He felt really bad about that, so he bought another cake. Denny's worked very well for a few years. No complaints about it from either of my folks, until they closed earlier this year, and it was the only Denny's we could drive to on our gas budget. So yeah, going to research restaurants and driving distances so I can get some darn dinner on my birthday. Yes, I talked to them about this. Yes, they promised to do better. They do most of the time, but I still have these moments where I just want to throw a pillow at their heads. And shoutouts to our Re-Generals of the day, Rishti, Merlene, Zontac, and Bloodwolf. Become tomorrow's Re-Generals by dropping as many Re's as you can in the comments below.